From inside a house full of vampires, it's the IGN Digigods. So please welcome the world's most dangerous predators, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Hello? Is this thing on?
There we go. You're asking the wrong guy. Is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Absolutely is.
We're off to a rousing start.
So you're going to New York, aren't you?
I am going to New York.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. I already have a reservation for Peter Luger's.
Oh, nice.
Steakhouse. Never been.
Nice.
The iconic New York Steakhouse
Fantastic.
in Brooklyn. And meeting two high school friends there.
Good deal. And they're still friends with you.
There they are.
That's amazing.
Actually, one we talked about last week.
Oh.
My friend Phil, who I took to the Family Guy mobile app party. Where Phil got cock-blocked in his attempt to get Adam West's autograph. What is that?
Nurse 3D. It's a movie that reminds me of Phil.
Why is that?
I don't know. It just does. Maybe it'll occur to you while we're talking about it later. In fact, you know what? I have to pull up. I've got to pull. Oh my gosh! I have to pull up an email that's just absolutely priceless.
What are you doing? What is going on?
You'll find out. Hold on. It's just the most priceless thing in the world.
Should I be talking about something? Should I be vamping in some?
No. Hold on. Oh my gosh! This is just the funniest email ever. No, hold on. When we get to this, because I had to talk about Nurse 3D on the radio with Tim. Tim sent me an email. We were going back and forth after what we've seen, because that's how you do on Film Week. It's like, have you seen this? You got this. You try to sort of put your thoughts together ahead of time so that you can make for a tight show. Tim wrote me an email that just absolutely crucified me. It was so funny after he saw Nurse 3D. It's one of the funniest emails I think I've ever gotten. I'm going to have to find it. Anyway, so before we get to that, Mark,
I guess I'm waiting for the show to start.
Have you ever heard of Todd Oliver? Do you know who this guy is?
He looks gay.
He really? What did Rock Hudson look gay? No, I know what you're saying. He looks like...
He looks effeminate.
Yes, he does. Todd Oliver, funny dog? What? This guy's not funny.
This is what we're starting with?
Well, I just want to get this out of the way, because it's like this came to us from Inception, and I've never heard of this guy, and he's a comedian. He's allegedly a nationally known comedian who has talking dogs. He's like, what? And he's done like he's done like a million appearances on television. I've never heard of him. Apparently Letterman loves him. He's a ventriloquist, basically, right? The dogs don't talk, just so you understand. It's a ventriloquist deal. He's got a ventriloquist dummies as well, and but he like uses dogs as well. But it's like, what? And they quote Penn and Teller here as loving him, and I've never heard of the guy. I've never seen him. I watch late night television all the time, or at least I used to, and I've never heard of the guy. Anyway, he's okay. He's better than the other ventriloquists that we have right now. Like, who's that guy that annoys me so much, who's just dreadful? We talk about it all the time on this podcast. He's horrible.
Oh, the guy who does all the Vegas shows.
Yeah.
He was on like Star Search or something, or The Voice or something.
So terrible. He's so annoying. And who was the black guy who did stuff in the 80s and then went away?
Michael Winslow?
No. The ventriloquist guy, the guy with the big mustache. He used to wear a hat. That black dude. You remember him?
Melly Mel Steve?
No.
Star Wars?
Oh, now you're gonna make me look it up.
By the way, while you're
too.
looking it up, I have to tell you something. You need to go to Rolling Stone, or at least do a Google search, because somebody hilariously reimagined
Willie Tyler and Lester.
That's right.
Thank you.
They reimagined Game of Thrones as a 70s sitcom.
Oh my gosh, who did this?
It was some guy. And if you go to Rolling Stone, that's where I saw it. It's a minute and a half.
Okay.
And it reimagines the opening of Game of Thrones as if it was like an opening from a 70s sitcom. And it's hilarious.
Oh my gosh,
so
I gotta watch that.
You gotta just Google Game of Thrones 70s sitcom.
Okay.
And Garrison Dean is the guy's name. And
Sweet.
it is hilarious.
All right. I'm all into it. So, Mark, here's what I want to start with this week. Three criterions that are just absolutely magnificent. Two of them are magnificent. One of them, it's a magnificent transfer. It's a magnificent set. I will let you explain to me why the movie is as stunning as it is, or regarded as stunning as it is. But anyway, first up, I just want to say Persona in a DVD and Blu-ray dual format edition from Criterion Collection. This is a moment to celebrate. Do you understand why this is such a huge moment to celebrate?
Because one of the great sci-fi films of the 90s?
No. Persona, Ingmar Bergman's amazing film. I wrote a gigantic, psychotic, totally anally retentive essay on this in film school, and I just think this is one of the great films of all time. It's one of Ingmar Bergman's most impenetrable films. It is a short film, believe it or not. It's only 83 minutes long. Sometimes feels a lot longer, but it is extremely allegorical, very symbolic, very experimental, really, really surreal. Liv Ullmann and Bibi Andersson, basically as two women whose lives wind up becoming psychotically intertwined. There's almost no way to really explain the plot of the thing, because it's really much more about kind of visual context and lots of very, sort of existential subconscious through lines, and then it gets super weird. And it begins super weird. But the fact that this is now on Blu-ray is something I never actually imagined in a million years would happen. So I am elated that Persona is out in Blu-ray and DVD combo set. Tons of great extras here. You get new interviews with Liv Ullmann and Paul Schrader, who is always fun to listen to talking. Archival interviews with Ingmar Bergman, Liv Ullmann, and Bibi Andersson. A lot of on-set footage, audio commentary by Bergman historian Birgitta Steen. And the best thing on here, which came out fairly recently, it was made in 2012, but it was released only last year, is a documentary called Liv and Ingmar, which is first rate, and the fact that that's on here is a super bonus. That's like a twofer. It's a great feature documentary. It didn't get a great release last year. It should have, and I think it got a pretty decent release. I think it was fairly available as streaming on Netflix or one of those services, but anyway, really great. And just tons of stuff. Now, let me tell you a story about Persona. You've seen Persona.
Years and years ago.
You remember how Persona begins?
Yes.
It begins with that psychotic montage of just crash images, like shock imagery.
Right.
Do you remember that very well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I mean, like the one that. Well, first of all, when I taught that semester of film history to those kids over at Mount St. Mary's, Persona, I showed them the beginning of Persona. I want to sort of make I kind of connected it to Eisenstein and montage, and like, okay, let's see what you see, and I showed them that opening montage, and 99% of the time, my experience with people seeing that montage, if you ask them, what do you remember from that montage? They don't remember like a lot of individual images, but the one that they always come up with is, oh my gosh, that hand, the crucified hand, like Christ's hand with the nail going through it. It's just like, it just jars you, right? That's the one I thought they'd totally jump out at and go, oh yeah, it's the hand being crucified. You know what they came up with? I kid you not, like 5 students in a row, almost all simultaneously, they're like, oh, there was a penis there, which is the one thing that most people do not notice.
Well, they are college kids.
Yeah, that's true. But these were women, and I guess that probably counts for something anyway. Persona is just amazing. It's a wonderful film, and it's psycho, but it's pretty great. From 1966, Ingmar Bergman's Persona from the Criterion Collection. Rock on, and then. We have The Freshman, starring Harold Lloyd, also in a Blu-ray and DVD combo set from Criterion. This is considered oftentimes his greatest film. I mean, a lot of people like Safety First, but I got to tell you,
Freshman's great.
Freshman's pretty great.
I love Harold Lloyd. He's
Freshman's
the best.
pretty great, and you watch this and you're like, I think he really is up there with Chaplin and Keaton.
He is. I love him. I enjoy him. I just, in terms of sitting down and laughing, I enjoy Harold Lloyd more than the others. And The Freshman was like that was like his most successful silent film.
It was. It was a huge success, and Harold Lloyd actually wound up being the most successful of any of them. I mean, he owned half of Los Angeles or a substantial portion of it at one point. He was a very wealthy man. Did much better with his money than Chaplin or especially Keaton, who got totally taken. Keaton wound up with nothing. But, lots of great extras here as well. This is a 4K digital transfer from a 1998 restoration print done over the UCLA Film and Television Archive. Brand new orchestral score conducted and composed by Carl Davis, who is without equal in doing these particular scores. Audio commentary featuring Richard Correll, who is a film historian and an expert on Harold Lloyd, along with our good friend Leonard Maltin.
Yay!
And I cannot ever listen to Leonard Maltin enough. Leonard is just a pure delight. He's just the best guy on his feet talking about movies you will ever hear. And tons of other great things. You know, it's a Criterion set, so you could just troll through these extras for hours and hours and hours. Really great stuff. There's a visual essay on the film's locations, which is a lot of fun if you know the locations. And footage from a 1963 Delta Kappa Alpha tribute to Lloyd, featuring Steve Allen and Delmer Daves and Jack Lemmon, which is really fun. And it's just great. You just cannot get better than Harold Lloyd. Now, Mark, you got to explain to me. Great Beauty. What's the deal? This thing won an Oscar.
It did. I love it. It's sumptuous and it is wildly self-indulgent and very Fellini-esque.
But that's the thing. I don't understand how anybody. I mean, it's 2.5 hours long, and I don't understand how anybody could really. I appreciate it because I've seen La Dolce Vita, but it's so referential of La Dolce Vita that I didn't think anybody would. You know, people who are going to watch this. How many people will have seen La Dolce Vita and liked it enough to vote for this and go, "Oh, I get that." Well, does it work if you have not seen La Dolce Vita? I don't think it does.
No, I think it does. You know why? Okay. Because I think the movie is about a guy who's turning 65 and he's looking back on the emptiness of his life, and a lot of people can relate to that. I think there's a certain emptiness to this guy's lavish lifestyle that he starts to realize, and I think that that would resonate with a lot of people.
All right, I guess. I shoot me for not realizing that.
I think it's great. I loved it.
Very nicely done, but I am not a huge fan of Paolo Sorrentino, who I think is a very indulgent Italian director. He did Il Divo a few years ago, which got a little bit of traction, but I also thought was very indulgent. He's highly stylized. I think he really needs to dial it down a little bit. But that being said, who am I? He now has an Academy Award. And his Academy Award-winning movie, is out in a dual-format Blu-ray DVD edition from Criterion. Piled on with lots of really cool extras, including a conversation between Sorrentino and an Italian critic named Antonio Monda. The actor who stars in the film interviewed, the screenwriter interviewed, deleted scenes. It's good stuff. But I think it's a fine film, but I'm just kind of blown away by how it sort of took everyone by storm. I did not see this thing coming.
Well, first of all, you can see how the Academy loves it because it's a throwback to a classic film that,
Yeah, I guess.
It somehow like is a tie to a classic era of foreign filmmaking that they were not part of the Academy to honor.
Okay.
But that being said, I think it works great on its own.
Sure it does.
You know what doesn't work great on its own?
What doesn't work?
Holliston. I didn't really heard of the show until I got this DVD, and it's the story of these guys who just want to get out of their little New England town and be famous.
All right.
That's all they want to do. It's got a bunch of, okay sitcom-y type actors, Adam Green, Laura Ortiz, and of course Dee Snider's in it. And so,
this is the Dee Snider thing.
There's werewolves and zombies, and
this is not Netflix. Is this an Amazon thing? This is I saw this on Bus Benches originally, and we did. This is the second season.
Yeah,
this is the second season. Yeah, we covered the first season of this like a year ago. This is like coming back to me now. It's Dee Snider trying to do why is it that the night Gavin you know what I'm talking about?
What are you talking about?
The old Night Stalker.
Night Stalker, yes.
Yeah, Darren McGavin. Thank you. See how my brain works. It grabs for fragments. It's late at night. It grabs for fragments. It puts them together. It eventually completes the puzzle. Why is it that the Night Stalker keeps getting redone and reconfigured and reimagined 957,000 different ways?
957,000. A couple less than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, this
is another one.
This thing is on. It's on FearNet. That's where it is.
That's it. FearNet. There you go.
I understand why horror fans would get a kick out of it. It's just a new take, a funnier take, a more kind of postmodern-y take on the horror thing. But it's just not that clever. Sorry. Right. I think they just need better writers. The complete... Only people who are of a certain age even know who Ken Berry is.
Oh, Ken Berry.
He was a sitcom guy from the late 60s, early 70s, a little bit into the 80s.
The end of the Civil War was near when quite accidentally F Troop, man, come on.
I know he's starting
best.
By the way, he's still around. He's still around. He's 80 years old.
Oh wow.
Anyway,
he's younger than Batman.
Oh, it's the best. Anyway, Mayberry RFD
Which
was a spin-off of the Andy Griffith Show.
Yes, Mayberry BFD.
We did. We used to call it Mayberry BFD. I know. And you know what? Look, Ken Berry, he had a moment. The guy was on Keller Burnett. He was on Mama's Family. Remember, he was on Mama's Family? Yeah. Obviously, Andy Griffith and this show, F Troop. So Ken Berry was a dude. And this show, it's okay. It it lasted for a few seasons. It lasted for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of episodes, 78, but you never really see it on syndicator and reruns. The only way to get it, as far as I know, is this DVD collection, which is only season 1. We'll see if they do season 2 and season 3 based on how they sell. But anyway, 26 episodes of Mayberry RFD. Make your mother smile by saying it exists.
Love it.
I don't know what that is.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think that they do. Okay. Anyway, Broadchurch is the type of show that Wade loves.
Not so much, actually.
Why not?
I don't know. I tried kind of getting into it.
Look, it's
I'll try again.
It's this quirky-ish drama thing. It starts with this kid, preteen kid, who's found dead on the beach in this town called Broadchurch, and they've got to investigate it. And who could it be? Mystery's deep in. It could be anybody. And it's okay. I like a lot of the stuff that BBC America is doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know that this is my favorite one. I'm really surprised actually that you don't like it.
Nah, I don't have the time to really get into a lot of this stuff. It's got to grab me right up. I am very excited to catch up with Mr. Suffrage. This new season. I'm very excited to sort of sink my teeth into it. That Blu-ray should be showing up soon, so I'll be able to plow through that entire season. I think the first season was terrific, and best thing Jeremy Piven's ever done, because he's not playing the American jerk in it. Well, I mean, he's an American jerk, but it's he's a period American jerk, so he's
Fox is supposed to do
more acceptable.
Fox is supposed to do a American version of this Broadchurch.
Oh, that's right. I heard that. Well, anyway.
Now, wait, let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, The Great Beauty, Persona, Safety Last. These are classics.
Yeah.
But really, when you think about classics, you know what you think of?
I know.
No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan.
Sure.
The best.
All right.
This is from 1989, and it's terrible. I mean, what are you going to say? There was a moment where Hulk Hogan was going to have a film career. And that moment was very short. Actually, there was a moment when a bunch of these wrestlers, like, what was the John Carpenter film that Roddy Piper was in? They Live?
Yeah. Which Matt is supposed to remake, Is
that right?
Now, we'll see if that winds up happening based on, whatever happens with Planet of the Apes. I suspect that may now become a non-project, because Planet of the Apes, if it really kicks off this year, is going to propel him into a whole different tier, and he's not going to want to be doing a remake of They Live. In theory, he's doing a new version of the story or the novella or whatever that They Live is based on, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Mark my words. You don't want to be dovetailing from a successful Planet of the Apes sequel into a remake of They Live.
Now, according to Wikipedia, No Holds Barred debuted at number 2 behind Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in the weekend it came out.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, that doesn't make the movie good.
No, it does not.
I want to put that out there.
Absolutely does not.
Exactly. Anyway, whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna plow through. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna plow.
Now wait, hang on a second. I have no food for you. Okay, if you want food that I've made,
no.
The only thing I have for you is granola.
No.
I made granola.
No.
Otherwise, all I have is like junk, like chocolate covered pretzels.
Nope, not this week. I had enough last week to last for like.
You did. You ate 2 of my homemade ring dings.
That made me sick. So yeah, I made me sick. So anyway, I'm going to blow through some documentaries, and then you can tell us why Meryl Streep got another Oscar nomination. The Let the Fire Burn from Zeitgeist is a pretty great documentary that somehow didn't actually get a whole lot of traction with the Critics Awards and the Oscars and all that last year. But it's quite good, from a documentarian named Jason Osder, whom I'm completely not familiar with. But this is actually really, really interesting. It goes back to 1985, and where there was this a particular event in Philadelphia that was captured on television, and it was, I don't want to give all this away, but it was a particularly horrific event, and I mean really, really horrible. And I only vaguely remember this because I was not living in the country at the time. I heard about this in Europe, and so I come to this fairly fresh, and the whole thing is constructed from material that they, back then, television footage and archival video footage, and it's really quite extraordinary and very shocking and very disturbing. Really great filmmaking, though. Just really great filmmaking. He's not working with anything that he actually shot. He just takes all this old footage and puts it together and reconceptualizes it, reimagines it. Pretty great. Let the Fire Burn from Zeitgeist. Really good stuff. When Jews Were Funny. Mark, do you remember when Jews were funny?
Oh,
you guys
I'm Jewish and I'm funny.
Not fun. Not anymore.
Oh.
Not anymore. Not anymore. You're not funny anymore. It's all over. Time's over. No, this is great. This is the history of Jewish comedy in America, and it's fantastic. The saddest thing is it features an interview with one of my great comedy gods who recently passed away, and it made me. I'm not kidding. I'm kind of choking up right now just because I miss David Brenner. I miss him a lot.
I know, wild, right?
I miss him a lot. David Brenner is in this, and it's just, there's a guy who made me laugh so much when I was a kid, so much growing up. Every time he showed up on The Tonight Show, I was so happy. Whether it was a guest, whether it was as a guest host, David Brenner made me happy, and it just makes me sad that he's gone. So it's nice to see him in this. He is one of many, many, many people interviewed here. Shecky Green, Shelley Berman, and lots of current comics all the way up to the present day. Jack Carter's in here, David Steinberg, it's just amazing. And there are people who I wish were in here who unfortunately aren't with us anymore. And a lot of people who should be interviewed in this who aren't, but it's still, there are going to be more of these documentaries made. There's the documentary on the Catskills that we talked about, not too long ago that has Jerry Lewis in it. So I think all of them together will probably form a complete picture, and it's just great. There's no question that the history of Jewish comics in America is a unique and distinctive one, and I'm just glad it's being celebrated. Also from First Run Features in their standard eco packaging. A couple of films here. One is not the documentary, but I'm including it just because it's First Run Features. One is a documentary. The documentary is An Unreal Dream, the Michael Morton story. If you have never heard of Michael Morton, you should, because he's one of these exonerees, a guy who spent 25 years in jail for murdering his wife, which he did not actually do. And really extraordinary story, really nicely put together, great documentary, as is the film Lost Islands. Again, not a documentary, but a hugely successful Israeli film, really fun. Didn't get released here theatrically, and I'm kind of surprised that it didn't. First One Features usually do releases of stuff that they think they can turn a good dime on, so there must not have been the perception that this had much of an audience, but it's from 2008, and I think it's really, really quite fun. It takes place in the 1980s in Israel, and it's just about a kind of a family holiday, and it gives you a completely different point of view of Israel. It's in every conceivable way. It just gives you a different portrait of Israeli society, and I think that's long overdue. So that's pretty terrific. And then from BBC Earth, got a bunch of nature documentaries here. The Bear Family and Me. I'll go through these really quickly. Bear Family and Me is really cute. Extreme Bears is terrifying. Those cancel each other out. Earth Flight is just another one. This is a complete 2-disc set, a whole series of this amazing BBC Earth, just some of the best aerial photography of birds you'll ever see. I don't know what these guys, like Winged Migration was a great documentary, but this is just more of the same, and it's unbelievable now with the cameras that they've got. Incredible. Like 6 continents, they're just shooting birds, and somehow they're like with the birds. It's amazing. And then David Tennant narrates Winged Planet, an Earth Flight film, which is more amazing, unbelievable bird photography. It's just, these guys are amazing. The reason I recommend Earth Flight as opposed to Winged Planet, an Earth Flight film, is because Winged Planet is on DVD. Earth Flight, the complete series, is on Blu-ray and just will blow your mind. Absolutely blow your freaking mind. And by the way, as long as I'm talking about great Blu-ray photography, hopefully, in the coming weeks, I will have some very interesting things to say regarding 4K. 4K televisions and Blu-ray and all this stuff, because I've been doing a lot of research into this. I'm finding out a lot of very interesting things.
You have a 4K TV, do you not?
No, I don't. No.
You don't?
No.
I thought you did.
No.
Are you going to buy a 4K TV?
Maybe.
Oh, so that's a tip-off.
Maybe.
That there's not enough advances in 4K to make the purchase.
Well,
Why?
here's the thing. It all hinges on HDMI 2.0. We're only at HDMI 1.4 right now. Just saying. And then lastly, Magnolia on Blu-ray has Cocaine Cowboys Reloaded, The Untold Stories. You know what? I mean, this is deeply, deeply disturbing stuff. I don't know that it's well done, but I don't know that anybody really needs to be plunged back into this horrible, horrible world. But it exists. We know it exists. We see the body count all the time. We know it continues to be a problem. So if you want to really, really immerse yourself in the muck of the drug trade, by the way, by all means, go ahead, do it. I just couldn't get through it more than about 10 minutes, and I was like, turning my stomach.
Wait, let's talk about two-time Oscar nominee August, Osage County. This is the story of the world's most dysfunctional, annoying family.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, it's funny because the movie...
Didn't you just want to beat every one of them with a stick?
Yeah.
The
movie starts with Sam Shepard as the matriarch of this family literally killing himself. And I thought to myself, if I had to live with these women, I'd kill myself too.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't end.
I know.
Now, the movie is based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning play by Tracy Letts, and I have not seen August Osage County. However, I did see Tracy Letts in his Tony Award-winning performance in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf on Broadway in 2012.
Right.
And he was absolutely, unbelievably fantastic. One of the best performances on stage I've ever seen. And he's also a playwright who's won a Pulitzer Prize. So the guy not only has won a Pulitzer Prize for writing, but he's won a Tony Award for acting. So the guy is incredibly talented. But this movie is just a bunch of actresses just hamming it up, going over the top, saying, give me an Oscar.
Yeah.
And it's just draining. It's just too much.
Meryl Streep played look, she's got cancer in the movie. That doesn't tell you anything that everyone doesn't already know. I swear, I remember when she played a cancer, a mom dying from cancer in One True Thing. Did you see that Carl Franklin movie? Renee Zellweger is the daughter.
Forever ago, yeah.
Yeah, and William Hurt is her husband. That was like 97, 98, something like that. And she was really good in that. And she's dying and suffering, and I just thought, oh, this is great. Suddenly, and I said this at our Film Week Oscar show, I said, it's like Meryl felt she wasn't cancerous enough in that film. She had to, dial it up to 11 and just be, the ultimate cancer, the movie cancer patient, cancer victim to end all. No one will ever want to play a cancer victim again, ever, after this. And it's just...
Totally histrionic.
It's just histrionic on
Too much.
It's way over the top. And Julia Roberts is over the top. And I'm just thinking, John Wells, man, you're a TV dude. TV is usually about, bring it down? How did he lose control of these actors?
I don't know. But you know what? He had the same problem with his last film, the one Company Men.
Yeah, he did.
Which I didn't like that either.
But
that was also very homebound.
Yeah.
It's not a very expansive story.
Yeah.
And I think he directs like he's still in TV.
Yeah, true.
He doesn't really use the camera. He's not big sweeping vistas. No big cinematic issues there going on. It's all kind of just typical master shot, medium shot, close up, TV stuff.
True.
He's not a great chooser of material or adapter of other people's material.
True dat.
What else we got?
We got The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug.
Dud.
3D.
No one cares. Forget it.
You can get this in a Blu-ray
Dud.
3D set, which includes Blu-ray 3D, Blu-ray and DVD, and ultraviolet.
Dud.
Or you can get it in just a Blu-ray, DVD, and ultraviolet set.
Dud.
You're never going to be able to replicate and this gets into the whole 4K television thing that I'll be talking about shortly. You're never going to be able to replicate the 120 hertz with the 60 frame 3D thing. It's never going to look the way that it does if you're seeing a 60 frame a second projected in the movies, which is why Peter Jackson and some others think they're going to save the movies by making it all look like a big gigantic episode of Land of the Lost. Not going to happen. But that being said, I actually like these movies. I got to be honest with you. I like the Hobbit movies more than the Lord of the Rings movies. I really do.
The Lord of the Rings movies,
and I didn't think I would.
They don't stand up.
Now, here's the thing. What I do like about the Hobbit movies is that I'm able to sort of enjoy them tongue-in-cheek. I have said this many times. What I love about these movies is that Bilbo Baggins is a total, unreliable Butterfingers. Do you realize that? He is a total Butterfingers. He cannot be trusted to hang on to anything. Nothing at all. He drops everything. Now, Martin Freeman, I think, is great as Bilbo. I think he's just
like him
wonderful.
As an actor. I think he's fun.
I look at him, and all I can think of is, Bilbo, I have seen you as a porn understudy. Remember? Right? You know what I'm talking about. Love Actually?
Yeah,
that's true. See? Yes.
Wiggles.
Thank you. Anyway, they hand him a key and he drops it. They hand him something to hold, hang on to it, he drops it. And every time he drops something, it rolls off a cliff. There's always a cliff around. He can't drop anything when he's not around a cliff. Like if you drop it and, I dropped it, I'm going to pick it up. Fine. But he drops it, it rolls, and he dives after it. Of course, he doesn't get it. Every single time.
It's the worst.
That's
I
how
don't like any of these. You know what? Just make another Star Trek film.
Smaug is Smaug is a dragon.
Smaug sounds like a Muppet character.
Smaug is a dragon. He's a dragon who is voiced by the actor of the moment, who is playing absolutely everything, Benedict Cumberbatch. And I remember seeing Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm like, ooh, what's he playing in this? And then the movie ends, and I'm like, Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't. Oh, he's the dragon.
Wow.
Anyway, look, there's no reason why The Hobbit is a book that's like a fraction of the length of the size of any of the other Lord of the Rings books, and yet they're turning it into 3 movies. It's just all drawn out with set pieces, but for some reason I actually enjoy these movies. They don't bore me. They don't
super
bore me.
Lame, super dud. Don't like them, go away.
Yeah.
Speaking of go away, we talked last week about how De Niro will do anything in the world ever. Means
true.
nothing. He is the least discriminating actor ever.
Yep.
He has destroyed his reputation, and his reputation is further destroyed in Grudge match where Jake LaMotta gets to fight Rocky Balboa.
Oh my gosh! Why did they do this? Why did they do
this?
this?
Also co-stars Kevin Hart, Alan Arkin, Kim Basinger.
Defecates on my favorite actors in boxing movies from the 70s and 80s.
I mean, it's like, look, Brando did a fun job sending up his Godfather role in The Freshman.
Yes, he did.
That was fun.
Yes, it was.
Okay, can't beat that.
No.
Now
and in fairness, in the movie Tough Guys, Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster did a great job sending up their reputations as tough guys in the 1950s and 60s.
That's cool.
That was cool too. I was all into that.
Now De Niro doing another boxing. Because you could see, because De Niro is just not discriminating at all. You can just see him being taken by the punchline, by the one-liner. It's like Jake LaMotta versus Rocky Balboa. Oh my God!
I know
this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Do it
ridiculous.
now before you're too old.
Yeah.
And he's I've got another restaurant I got to bankroll. Sure, I'll do it now. Terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what's weird is that when you watch this movie, Robert De Niro, do you realize Robert De Niro is only 3 years older than Sylvester Stallone? Yeah. Doesn't he look like he's like 30 years older?
It's terrible.
It's just, he hasn't cared for himself. Stallone, he looks good.
Yeah, but Stallone is like, he's got a lot of work done.
So what?
He's Mickey Rourke-esque.
Yeah, but you know what? Look, I'd rather look the way that he looks than look the way that De Niro looks. Neither of them.
That's not true. Because you know what? De Niro, in the right role, he grows out his hair a little bit, combs it back.
When I say looks,
he
looks
cool when he wants to. Like in The Family,
yeah.
Right, he looks cool.
Let me translate. I don't want either of them taking their shirts off.
Yes, you do.
But if one of them is going to take his shirt off, it may as well be Stallone. At least when Stallone takes his shirt off, I go, he used to look good. De Niro takes his shirt off, I go, ooh, cover up.
Speaking of cover-up, why don't you take the Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, Blu-ray, and cover it up in a ditch, because they tried to breathe some new life into this franchise, and you know what? It's just not going to work. It's derivative, and it's half-baked, and it's silly.
It needs to die.
And it just needs to go away.
It needs to go away.
I understand Paramount. They're cheap, and they make a lot of money relative to how much it costs, but still, let's face it, it's over. Stop it. This whole found footage thing is just...
I know.
I mean, how much footage is there to find in the world?
I know.
It's just too much. Anyway, so Paranormal Activities, the marked ones, they look, it's just silly. 2-disc set. Disc 2 is the DVD. Disc 1 is the Blu-ray with an unrated version and a theatrical version and a bunch of quote-unquote found footage. Don't need this on Blu-ray. It's a found footage movie, so the whole idea is that it doesn't... What? What are you laughing at? Yeah.
It's the email that Tim sent me about Nurse.
What?
I'll tell you in a second. Oh, my gosh.
Well, also on Blu-ray is a movie called Best Night Ever, which is truly, truly terrible. It's, yes?
Keep going. I'm sorry.
I just want to hear you laugh.
It's too funny. Okay.
Anyway, it's a bunch of women, including a bride-to-be, who go to Vegas for a bachelorette party, and Best Night Ever is really incredibly unfunny. I wonder if these films are supposed to be like somehow empowering to women who realize that they can have a movie based on their wants and needs and desires, and them being funny and them being out there and making their own decisions. Yeah. And I get all that, but you know what? This is just crap. Yeah. It was directed by 2 guys. It was written by 2 guys, and it's just incredibly unfunny. And, it's just the worst. Best Night Ever is the worst. It stars nobody I care about. Desiree Hall. I don't know who these people are. Just dreadful. Just dreadful.
So I'm going to blow through 3 films here and real quickly. And the first of them is Nurse 3D. Your pain is her pleasure. Now, this comes with Blu-ray 3D and 2D along with Ultraviolet. Let me tell you a little bit about this. This is a totally, unbelievably over-the-top, campy, really bad throwback to exploitation 3D movies. The reason this is in 3D is so that you can essentially have scalpels hurtling at your eyeballs through the screen. This is a 3D movie like they were originally conceived to be, where everything is poking you. Somebody falls down within the first few seconds of the movie and gets impaled on a spike on a fence. And, of course, as they are impaled, you get plunged right on top of that spike. It comes right into your eyes. So that's the only reason that Nurse is in 3D. It stars Paz de la Huerta. Mark, are you familiar with Paz de la Huerta?
Yeah, she was kind of a hottie for a while.
Well,
still a hottie now.
The whole idea here is that this is almost like everyone in this movie is an escapee from some 1970s Brian De Palma movie. She is a nurse who walks around basically wearing a push-up bra and in stiletto heels, which immediately tells you that she's a scary nurse. She's basically a serial killer nurse who had some kind of a psychotic episode when she was younger, and you learn about that as the film goes along. And there's a new nurse that she develops this like lesbian attraction to, and of course doesn't want to, love her. And so, once you've spurned the nurse, good luck. She's gonna go after every man that you care about. But Paz de la Huerta's performance in this, you can't figure out if she's being sultry and vixeny that she's taking it on seriously, that she's just trying to be really kind of a little bit edgy, or if she's intentionally going so far over the top as to just make the movie completely and utterly ridiculous in every conceivable way. I'm hoping it's the latter. Anyway, Tim and I talk about this on the radio. And it's an okay, the Blu-ray transfer, whatever. You're not getting this movie because of the quality of the transfer. You're getting it for the 3D. And then Martin Donovan shows up in this thing. He gets killed fairly quickly. But you're like, what? So Tim, when we're going back and forth with our emails for Film Week, kind of getting, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And one of the films was, A Field in England, the new Ben Wheatley film, which is fantastic, by the way. Really, really super cool. Psychedelic, cool, period, British Civil War movie. Anyway. He says to me, writes me an email. He says, dude, what's wrong with the lead chick in Nurse? Is she autistic? Is English not her first language? Why am I forced to look at her twat a lot? Is her pee what's supposed to be in 3D?
Thank you for not reading that out loud in its entirety.
Because there are huge long stretches of the movie where she walks out not wearing any pants. She's got like a top on, but she's not wearing any pants. and she'll walk around the room just not wearing any pants, and this other actress is there, and apparently not really bothered by the fact that Paz de la Huerta is walking around in stiletto heels, not wearing any pants.
So what you're saying is that movie is our recommendation of the week.
It's like
a beautiful girl with no pants. Is there a problem with that?
Doing? Is this supposed to be sexy? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. Is she autistic? Is English not her first language? Oh my gosh. She has this just bizarre affectation. It was just, he sent me that email. I laughed for maybe 25 minutes solid. It just killed me. So funny. Anyway, real quickly, a horrible movie called Cavemen, which is out on Blu-ray from Welgo. I admire the fact that Welgo is trying to expand beyond just Hong Kong and Thai and Japanese action films, but man, this just makes no sense at all. This is about a bunch of guys, they're all players, right? And stars Skylar Austin, Camila Bell, Chad Michael Murphy, Dio Okeniyi, Alexis Knapp, and Kenny Wormald, which means nobody you should ever have heard of. Anyway, but, you know, one of them, Skylar Austin, he decides, I need to find more fulfilling relationship. I can't just be like hanging out with chicks anymore. And it's a weird thing because these guys all live in a loft and they all kind of do women in adjacent beds that have curtains between them. It's just idiotic. And I've seen enough of these movies that are all set in L.A. about guys, you know, who are just playing the women, and one of them needs something more meaningful. It's been told a billion times. It ain't fresh, and I'm sorry. And then Snake and Mongoose was probably rightly overshadowed by Rush, but it's a similar story to Rush. Came out. This is an independent film. It's obviously much less slick, but an interesting story nonetheless. It's about this incredible rivalry in drag racing history that is comparable to what Ron Howard did in Rush, and Don the Snake Prudhomme and Tom the Mongoose McEwen. And it's look, could be better. It's got some good performances in it. Tim Blake Nelson shows up. Fred Dreyer shows up. Noah Wiley shows up. They're just in it briefly. But it's an interesting story. And if you're a drag racing aficionado, it's probably worth checking out. Apart from those cameos, nobody in here that you've ever heard of or ever should have heard of, but it's pretty well done. It's all right. That being said.
Wade.
Yes, sir.
Lizzie Borden.
Yes.
Everyone knows the story of Lizzie Borden. She was in the 1890s. She supposedly murdered her parents with an axe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I remember in the 70s there was a movie with Elizabeth Montgomery as Lizzie Borden, and it was very well received. This movie we're about to talk about, Lizzie Borden Took an Axe, is not so well received. In fact, it's terrible. Christina Ricci plays Lizzie Borden, and she's got those crazy eyes. The thing is that when you cast Christina Ricci in a role like Lizzie Borden,
yep,
the moment she flashes those crazy eyes, you realize that this is not like a psychological portrait.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the story of a crazy girl who kills her family.
Yep.
And that's just, if you're going to make a straight horror film, sure. But this is supposedly a more psychological take, which it's just a bunch of BS. So Lizzie Borden Took an Axe, not great. However, the story of Lizzie Borden, the true story of Lizzie Borden, is a good one. So you might want to check that out elsewhere. Even the Elizabeth Montgomery movie, The Legend of Lizzie Borden, which I don't think is on Blu-ray or DVD or anything.
Ooh.
That's better than that. Maybe that might be on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. We're going to get into some classic movies that are now out, and some stuff from Olive that I want to blow through real quickly. We got a big one coming up in a little bit, but some stuff from Olive. Bang Bang You're Dead with Tony Randall and Herbert Lom and the wonderful Wilfred Hyde White. Pretty cool. This movie was from 1966. It's very swingery, very cool. Tony Randall did make a few movies. He wasn't just a TV guy. And it's from the whole kind of marginally inspired James Bond era, but and it's shot actually by a guy who did a James Bond film, the cinematographer from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But it's perfectly fine. I mean, it's not charade or anything like that, but it's worth checking out. And then we also have The Bamboo Saucer with John Erickson, Bob Hastings, Bernard Fox, Lois Nettleton, Dan Duryea. This is a little bit dated. It's kind of a UFO thing. They go to China to find a flying saucer. 1968. doesn't quite hold up, but it is kind of a weird artifact piece. I guess it's got some cachet. Cry Danger, directed by Robert Parrish, who was a really good workman-like guy back in the day, starring Dick Powell and Rhonda Fleming. Rhonda Fleming, by the way, you know what her claim to fame is, don't you?
Oh, yeah, she's Mr. and Mrs. Fleming's kid.
No, Rhonda Fleming married Ted Mann of Mann Theaters.
What?
Yep. Yeah, she was Rhonda Fleming Mann. Anyway, this is a decent film noir. You know, Dick Powell did a few of those, and he was kind of like a second tier bogey in some respects. And it's always nice to see him do film noir. You know, again, not first-rate film noir, but Robert Parrish was a real workman-like guy, and you know, it's only 79 minutes, so definitely worth checking out. And then Doris Day and Frank Sinatra in the lovely Young at Heart, which I think is a totally underrated movie. Also includes Dorothy Malone, Gig Young, and Ethel Barrymore. And you know, it's a melodrama, but there's absolutely no reason that you should dismiss it for that reason, because it just has a great performance by Doris Day and a really, really wonderful performance by Frank Sinatra. Both of them great actors, underrated actors, and really, really, really nicely shot, by the way, by Ted McCord, who did The Sound of Music. So all of those are on Blu-ray from Olive Films, who continues to mine really, really, really good material, primarily from the Paramount catalog. So Paramount, please keep those vaults open, because if you're not going to touch this stuff, I want Olive going all the way with it.
Wait, we have some old school classics to talk about.
Yeah.
In a box set now, we have, from the good folks at Screen Factory, the Amityville Horror Trilogy. Now, this is the original Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
1979. By the way, I lived on Long Island, about 20 minutes away from Amityville, when this thing actually happened.
When it happened?
Yeah.
Really?
I was living on Long
I had
Island.
no idea.
I was living on Long Island.
Good deal.
Where Amityville is. Actually, my uncle had a house in Amityville.
No kidding.
And at the time. Anyway, Amityville Horror, Amityville Horror 2, The Possession, and Amityville 3D. Only the first one is worth anything. It's with James Brolin and Margot Kidder. The rest of them are throwaways. But the original struck a chord. It really did. People liked that movie. You know what? It was kind of scary. It was a big story at the time, because this is the 70s, and you're talking about, you know, psychic things and horrors and ghosts and whatever, and it really struck a chord with the nation. Now, there was a documentary whose name I cannot remember. It came out last year, I believe, and it's an interview with the with one of the kids, and the whole thing was just a bunch of crap. The whole Amityville Horror, like, you know, the whole haunted house thing. You know, things going bump in the night.
Yeah.
It's a big. It's just a big joke. It was all orchestrated by the dad. Anyway, The Eagle Has Landed is a really cool film that is finally on Blu-ray. It's from 1976. It was pretty much the last good film, if not the last film, directed by John Sturges. Check out this cast: Michael Caine, Robert Duvall, Donald Sutherland. It's all about this. It's based on a book, and it's all about this German plot to kidnap Winston Churchill during World War II, and I think this movie's cool.
Sweet.
It looks good on Blu-ray. They found a pretty decent print. It's got a bunch of special features. So Shout Factory did a great job on this. It's got a location report. It's got the trailer. It's got on-location interviews with Michael Caine and Sutherland and John Sturges. It's got a new interview with Tom Mankiewicz, the screenwriter, and it's great. I think Eagle Has Landed is totally, totally cool. Old school World War II platoon fun.
Good deal. I concur.
Finally, from 1995, we have the cult sci-fi kind of hit Tank Girl.
I hate this movie. I know a lot of people love it. It's one of those kind of super... It was one of the first movies to be all super, like, comic booky, where it just sort of erupts into comic bookness at random moments, and just... It really lost me. It was just over the top, and I'm not a huge Lori Petty fan. It
was directed by a woman, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah,
you know, especially this kind of a film. Rachel Talalay is her name, and she really didn't direct much after that.
No.
Except really, she did some stuff as a producer, but really not much as a director. Anyway, the movie takes place in 2033, and there's been a comet that hits the Earth, and there's now no more water, which means there's no more cable TV and no more movies, and there's no nothing. Malcolm McDowell plays the guy who leads water and power, so he has the control of the world's water supply, and it's all about Tank Girl and Malcolm McDowell going head-to-head. And there's an audio commentary on this, which is pretty good with Lori Petty and Rachel Talalay. And look, obviously, as Wade tells you, this movie is a acquired taste. It's definitely got cult written all over it. I'm not a fan of this film either, but people love it. It also stars Ice-T. This is 1995 Ice-T. This is back when Ice-T was still kind of like a rapper, as opposed to now when he's kind of like sold out to the man.
He's a TV star.
It's also with Naomi Watts.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Tank Girl.
All right. And then also, these came out last year, but we missed covering them, and we're able to cover them a little bit after the fact. And I want to make a point of covering them because you got to get both of these. They are awesome. Collector's edition of The Shadow, starring Alec Baldwin, a pre-ha-ha Alec Baldwin when he was still trying to be an action star, and a special edition of The Duellists, which
cool.
is freaking awesome. Now, The Shadow, based on obviously on the old pulp character. Brought up to the present day and all kind of burnished with Russell Mulcahy behind the camera, kind of trying to get his mojo back after kind of falling out of the graces of Highlander. I'm surprised The Shadow didn't really kind of jumpstart his career again because I thought it was really, really cool. I think there's some great stuff in it. I thought Alec Baldwin really nailed it, but I guess people just weren't ready to see an old kind of 30s era character resurrected yet. It didn't do the Marvel thing somehow. Maybe it was just not quite...
He's not cool. Because he's not superhero spandexy, like super nerd cool.
Yeah.
He's a little too quaint and old school
he's
for
kind
modern
of,
audiences.
Yeah, he's a little phantom-y. He's just...
He's not a superhero, but he's not
Yeah.
like a straight detective. I don't know what he is.
Well, anyway, it's a film definitely worth rediscovering, and I think it's super cool. Looks really great on Blu-ray. Mulcahy, when he nails it really well. And lots of new interviews here and a trailer, and it's a nice transfer. Duellists, of course, is Ridley Scott's debut film with Keith Carradine and Harvey Keitel, and it's pretty great.
Yep.
It's pretty great.
Holds
It really holds up. This was produced by David Putnam, who, of course, had run the advertising firm in the UK that Ridley Scott got his training in. Putnam, people don't realize this, Putnam had an advertising firm in the UK with a stock of directors that included Ridley Scott, Tony Scott, Adrian Lyne, Alan Parker, Hugh Hudson. That's how these guys all became big directors, because Putnam became a big producer and started pulling all of his guys in to, direct movies. Roland Joffe. That's...
Well, good look. Look at some of the films he produced.
Yeah.
Killing Fields, right, obviously.
Killing Fields.
Chariots of Fire, the biggest
Yep.
one.
The Mission.
One Best Picture.
Yep.
The Mission. Also, he did Midnight Express.
Yep.
And Bugsy Malone.
That's right, which Alan Parker directed as well. That was his debut film. So, The Duelist is a really cool film, and it was a big deal in 1977 at the Cannes Film Festival. It won an award as Best Debut Film, which was an award they had then because they didn't have the camera door, sponsored by Kodak, which is what that award basically is now. But it's great. It's the whole kind of, whole Napoleonic era dueling thing. It's just really, really cool. And if you're a fan of the Sharps series, the Sharps movies with Sean Bean that often air on British television and that are now out on Blu-ray and DVD, you'll totally get into it. It's the same kind of thing. And man, Harvey Keitel really nails it in this. He's surprisingly good in this kind of a part, which you don't normally associate him with. And Keith Carradine as well, really good. So the movie totally holds up. And it's funny. Ridley was. We forget how old Ridley is. He's in his 70s. He was already in his 40s when he directed that movie.
Well, because he had spent so many years doing commercials and whatnot.
Yeah.
But of course, Prometheus 2 is supposed to happen.
I know, isn't that weird? That's just bizarre to me. And then let me crank through some of these other classic films because there are a few other things I want to get to here. Warner Archive stuff. Some really good Warner Archive stuff. The Americanization of Emily, great Julie Andrews movie with James Garner and Melvin Douglas, is out on Blu-ray from the Warner Archive. They pick very few films to give the Blu-ray treatment to from the Warner Archive collection, and this is one of them. And I'm like, wow, how about that? An Arthur Hiller film gets the Blu-ray treatment. Good. That's just strange. Anyway, this is a really, really, really sweet comedy written by Patty Chayefsky and directed by Arthur Hiller, obviously. And it's just it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's an old-fashioned Chayefsky comedy piece, just like they just don't make them anymore. And it's really funny, and it kind of goes in that Mr. Roberts vein of war comedies. It's really great. I love it, especially Julie Andrews. She can do no wrong. And then a bunch of Joan Crawford movies. Our Blushing Brides with Robert Montgomery and Dorothy Sebastian. And The Bride Wore Red with François Tone and Robert Young, and The Last of Mrs. Cheney, which also stars Robert Montgomery and William Powell. These are all absolutely fantastic MGM films. Joan Crawford was an MGM player at the time, and it's a young Joan Crawford, and she just kills it in every single one of them. And then we've also got the 1930 MGM classic, The Big House, which also includes an alternate French and Spanish language versions that were filmed at the same time. And that's the real reason to watch this. It's essentially a prison film set in 1800, but the fact that they made it in 3 languages at once, because it was 1930 and nobody wanted to sort of lose the audiences that they had in the silent era, early talkies, a lot of them, as they did with Dracula and a few others, they were shot in multiple languages simultaneously. And this is a fascinating case in point. So that's definitely worth checking out. And then less to my taste, but if you guys are into it, anybody who's into the old Western things, Tim Holt Western Classics Collection, Volume 4. A lot of old cheesy, cheap, quick Westerns that they just cranked out. These are all programmers. And there's just a bunch of them here, and 3 discs, 9 movies. None of them are very good, but if you're kind of a fan of the whole Tim Holt thing, I know there are people who are kind of they're into it. They'll do anything that's Western. They're all over.
Wade, you know what I'm all over?
What are you all over?
The King of Comedy, Wade. Finally.
I know.
1983. This is a very Scorsese had a weird little moment where he did like After Hours and King of Comedy. It was kind of like these stylish, over-the-top comedies, and this is great. De Niro plays a guy, schlub, who is obsessed with a talk show host played by Jerry Lewis,
Rupert Pupkin,
and so De Niro really wants a slot doing his stand-up on Jerry Lewis's show. Jerry Lewis says no, so De Niro kidnaps him.
Man, it is a creepy movie.
It's a creepy movie, and it includes the great line, better to be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime. Mm. And this is a great film. It's so terrific. Sandra Bernhard plays De Niro's accomplice in kidnapping Jerry Lewis, and it's terrific. It's funny, it's creepy, it's weird, it's interesting.
The scene where he invades his house, just kind of invites himself in with the date, and Jerry. That scene is so well staged. It is so uncomfortable. There's these long takes. And the funny thing is, Scorsese doesn't have the same appreciation for the film as he does for his other films.
Well, because it's not as big and epic, and it doesn't say as much.
He's on record as saying that he got worried while he was making it because he, quote unquote, had to keep reinventing his enthusiasm for the subject matter.
But the thing is that the subject matter is something that he usually doesn't delve into, which is like celebrity obsession, media culture. That's not a theme he's hit in his other movies.
But it's such a good movie, and it's just so weird that he felt like he was losing interest in his own movie while he was making it. It's strange that because I think it's one of his best films. I mean, I think it's definitely one of his best films, and perhaps because he had to work at appreciating it. You sort of don't feel like he's resting on his laurels. I think he's really trying to keep himself attuned to it. He's maybe focused better. And it's maybe something he should consider doing more often. Anyway, it's a great movie. Instead
of resting on his laurels, he should really rest on his Hardies.
Anyway,
next, finally on Blu-ray, folks, Norma Rae. Now, Norma Rae, it's a terrific film. Sally Field, of course, won an Oscar. Somehow,
there's also won a Best Song Oscar, which is like, what?
Yeah.
Have you heard that song lately?
Actually, I rewatched this. It's good. It holds up.
Yeah, but
she's great.
Yeah, well, look, Martin Ritt. We've talked about him, earlier too. But I'm sorry. The song sucks. It does. She's great in it. The movie's good. I mean, yes, it holds up. But the song is like, what?
Although Ron Liebman is a very strange looking man.
He is,
isn't
isn't
he?
He
has like the overbite. And he's so Jewish looking, and I can say that as a Jew.
I like him though.
Yeah,
he's a good actor.
He is good. Anyway, this is great. She's fantastic. It's a pro-union drama, so just know that if you're If you're turning off Fox News right now to go rent this, just know it's a pro-union drama. It's great. It's serious. It's intelligent. It has a heart. She's wonderful. And, she plays a woman who stands up for herself and her fellow Southern mill workers, getting them to unionize.
Right on.
Total Hollywood story.
Right on. So back in 1979, when the rest of us were watching Star Trek Motion Picture, a lot of people apparently were watching the Jesus film, known at the time as just Jesus. It was made in 1979. And this is a really interesting history to this movie because, and I mention this now because the religious movies are kind of all the rage right now, right? You got Noah, you got your
God's Not Dead,
yeah, you got
Son
your
of God,
yeah, Son of God, but another Jesus movie out recently, which is edited down from the Bible miniseries, which is kind of cheesy, and then of course your best friend in the world, Greg Kinnear, is in Is Heaven for Real, right? Is that the name of the thing? It's coming out soon.
Has that come out?
It's coming out.
Yes,
it's going to be coming out. It's going to make like $1 billion or something because Greg's going to be the biggest star in the world or something.
No, he's not.
Right? Anyway, so the 35th anniversary of this thing, it finally comes out on Blu-ray, and it's a really curious film. I'm not sure how good it is. It's mostly based on the Gospel of Luke. It stars a fairly well-known Shakespearean actor at the time named Brian Deacon, playing Jesus, who does a good job. It's an odd movie though. It's fairly awkwardly directed. It's very, very safe, very G-rated, and very faith affirming and very biblically safe, and sort of plays to the really plays to the bleachers and doesn't take any chances. It is not Last Temptation of Christ. It is not even the Mel Gibson film. It's very, very very Sunday school. So, but it was, basically this movie has been seen by huge numbers of people because it was made by a guy who started a businessman in 1945 named Bill Bright, who started a ministry that went on for decades, and he started the Campus Crusade for Christ in the 1950s, and then used that to essentially get this movie made in the 1970s. And apparently this thing has been shown like nonstop at church groups and religious organizations for decades now. And so there's no telling how many people have actually seen this or how much they've actually paid for it, because it's kind of off the radar. You know what I mean? It's like it's this like underground success. So it can make these claims to being the most watched film in history, which Rocky Horror Picture Show and Deep Throat both also made that claim, and both also had kind of an underground success that is hard to verify. So anyway, interesting film. Obviously not for everybody. Pretty much just for preaching to the choir, quite literally. But that's the Jesus film, which is now out in a Blu-ray edition. Quite nicely done. They really decked it out for its 35th anniversary. And Ernie Hudson hosts a little documentary on the film's impact. And then you also get a little featurette thing from 2006 and some notes. So, that's go look that up, and it claims to have been seen more than 6 billion times. So who knows? But with that, Mark, we are done. And
what?
Yes, we are. We are done. And are you going to feed me something next week?
I don't know, Wade, because you know what? I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
I have gained 10 pounds in the last 6 weeks.
Have you really?
Yeah, I've gained 10 pounds.
Is that celebratory weight or is that grief weight?
Oh, it's got to be celebratory weight.
Okay.
That girlfriend was crazy.